Hi, hello, my name's Beth, I'm an avid reader and aspiring author, and today I want to talk about all the books I have read recently. This is for August and September because I never got round to doing Augusts, and then September was a very big reading month, so this is going to be a long video because I've got a big stack of books to talk about. You'll probably see how many are off my shelf. Also, I am fully leaning into the fact that it's now October and I can look like a Halloween decoration. So we've got the pumpkins, we've got the orange, we've got the purple. But anyway, we're gonna start with the 4 books I read in August, which I think is pretty impressive considering I was moving during August. And the first book I read was Roundbreaker by Victoria Aveyard. This is a big book. It was really good. It was like your classic adventure fantasy, but because it's the first book in a new series, it's setting up characters and the world. My biggest qualm with this is that it felt like it might as well have ended mid-sentence. That's how sudden it seemed to end. And I don't even have a release date for when the next one's coming out, which means that it's hard to it's hard to it's going to be hard to pick up the story again when it does come out. To be honest, I can't really remember what happened. I know that there was 3 characters and they've set off on a quest, but other than that I can't really remember because I read this at the beginning, end of July, beginning of August. Although I will say that the assassin, I can't think of her name. I've read 2 similar fantasies and the names are very similar in them. It begins with an S and it's not Sabron because that's the priority of the orange tree. But yeah. I think this one I will have to revisit and reread when the second part of the series comes out, because I think I will enjoy it more when I can read straight into the next book, because then I'll get more understanding of the story and where it's going and what's at stake with the characters, because where it was just a new book in a new series, it was hard to know what the setup was and where they're going to be going, especially where it ended so suddenly. It's like she'd written this and the second book and had kind of just split it. And then we don't even have a release date. But I will definitely be rereading this when the second part of the series comes out, the second book. Because I can remember really loving it and wanting to know what happens. Because I want to know... Spindles, that was it. I've just looked at the back and remembered what was going on. There's spindles in the world and you have to tear them, they had to tear them down, and it's going to cause essentially alternate realities to collide into one, and they don't know, they know who they think is going to tear the spindle, but they've got to have the sword, spindle blood, and just the sword and the spindle blood together to stop them from ripping it, or to rip it. So I'm excited to see where the second part of this goes. I don't know how long the series is going to be. I'm hoping it's going to be several parts, because it was actually pretty good. Now I've remembered what was going on in it. Because, you know, we're in October now. We're on the 1st of October, and August was a pretty long time ago, especially the beginning of it. And if I keep looking down, it's because I've got my laptop here with my Goodreads up so I know what I read. Oh, let's see if we can I click on the books and find out what rating I gave it? I think I gave it 5 stars. My rating was 5 stars. I do remember it being a very quick read considering it's a 500-page book. Then the next book I read after that in August was the Mermaid of Black conch. I think this book should be taught in schools, honestly. It's definitely going to become a modern classic. It won the Cluster Book of the Year. Considering how short this book is, so much happens, and it's just beautifully written. It's about a mermaid who was originally cast off from an island and got turned into a mermaid by the women of the island because she was too promiscuous and too likely to take their husbands, and they didn't like it, so they cast her out. And then a bunch of men catch her and they hang her up, and they're really horrible to her. And like how that all goes down. I can't remember how it ends. But it's like you follow her and a man named David, who's writing about their time together, and like he falls in love with her, and like how are they going to be together. It's just really good. The way it's written, I actually tabbed this book quite a lot, and like you get these passages of how she thinks, and like it's done in sort of a poetry almost style, but it's like a stream of consciousness, and like it's just so beautifully written. If there's one book that I think that should be taught at A level, I would say it's an A level type of book, like kind of 16 plus, just because of the themes and how it's written and how graphic it is. Just because like it needs a more mature way of thinking to actually fully understand it. But I highly recommend everybody reads this book. Oh my god, it's so good. It really does just feel like a classic in the making. So I hope that this book does kind of go down in history the way it should. My rating of it was 5 stars. I wish though, the only thing qualm I have about this isn't even about the book, it's about the sticker. The fake sticker. But I'll let it go because it won a good award. And then after that, I read Daisy Jones and the Six. This book is incredible. This is my new favourite book. And I don't say that lightly. I say my new favourite. Nothing will ever knock The Outsiders off my top spot. I love that book. I think it's incredible. And I think everyone should read it when they're a teenager, but for books I've read as an adult, this takes the cake. This just leaps and bounds ahead of everything. It's about a band who were famous in the 70s, and like the way it's written is in an interview style. If I hadn't have just moved the day I started reading this, I would have read it in a day. I read it in 2 days because it just reads so quickly, and like it just shows you all of the issues that go along with fame. And I know that this is going to be a book that I will pick up to reread again, not in the not too distant future, because I want to go through it with like a fine-tooth comb and just tab it, and how amazing it is. All of the characters are just so lovable, and it really just shine a light on human nature and how being famous can really fuck you up, to be honest. So there's that one. That was also a 5-star read. Apparently in August, I was really there for giving 5 stars. And then the last book I read, I believe this was in August into September, was The Idea of You by Robin Lee. I was really into just reading about famous people during like the end of August into September. This book, oh, it's so cute, and it's like just the romance. It's about a boy in a boy band and an older woman whose daughter really loves the band, and like they fall in love and they have this little cute fling, and just how it goes down, and like the writing is incredible, and like you really care for the two like people in the relationship and how that affects them. There was a little bit of a side story with the ex-husband of like the woman. I get why it played in because of the daughter and all of that, but it felt a bit shoved in at points. So that's what I gave this a 4-star rating, because I really did just like the romance. Like, it wasn't like a groundbreaking piece of writing or anything, but like the story was just something I really needed at the time when I read it, and I want to reread it at some point, especially like if I'm going away on holiday somewhere and it's summer. this would be like the perfect pick-up cutesy thing to read again. Next we have a book. I read it, and that is Something New Under the Sun by Alexandra Kleeman. Don't waste your time reading this book. I picked it up because the premise sounded really interesting and this cover is gorgeous, but the fact I rated it 2 stars because I read it, I still couldn't tell you really what the story is about. It felt a bit disjointed. It's about in California that they have started making synthetic water, and the synthetic water is, and is that a spoiler? That's kind of a spoiler. There's this synthetic water called water, so water but without the E, and it's like hyphenated and like it's just weird. And there's this thing called road, which is going around in California, rapid onset acute dementia. And just from me saying that, you can work out kind of that they think it's the water that's causing it, but the people who are selling the water don't want that. Just don't waste your time with this book, is all I can say. I mean, if you really like dystopians, then maybe, but there's better dystopians out there than this. Although it has a pretty high average rating of 3.58 stars, and I'm not really sure how. Anyway, next we have another really kind of cute romance. During September, I was really missing my partner. I still am. But I just really wanted to read some fluffy romances at the end of the summer. This is The Dog. Oh my god, I've got the cat's teeth in today. This is The Dog Share by Fiona Gibson. And it's about a dog who brings these 2 people together. One's a woman whose life is literally falling apart. She's having a right shit time of it. The man is just dealing with life and his annoying dad kind of thing, and his son, and it's just how a dog can make people so happy, and just community through something really stupid. I say really stupid, like something small that can just bring you all together. I highly recommend this book. I rated it 3 stars, so it's kind of middle of the road, but if you want something that's just easy to read and just really cute, I highly recommend it. The writing at some points feels a bit flat, and so does the story at times. Maybe it's just because I wanted there to be more romance, because looking at it you think it's going to be very, very romance heavy, but it's more story heavy, more like a just contemporary fiction. But I do think it's worth the time to read it. Also because the dog is described as being really cute, and we all love dogs. Next we have a cult classic booktube book, or just like internet book, The Song of Achilles. When I say I sobbed at the end of this, I really mean it. I get what the hype is all about. It is so beautifully lyrically written, and it makes the Greek mythology just so much more accessible, because like when it came to Achilles, all I knew was his heel, the Achilles heel thing, but reading this made it so much easier to understand, and I highly recommend everyone picks this book up. I'm also currently listening to the Circe audiobook. She just has a way with making these people who are supposed to be gods just personable, and like you want to be their friends. My favourite character in this is Patroclus. If you read it, you will understand why. He is such a sweet character, and the end really got me. I full on like ugly cried, you know? Talking of ugly crying, The Priory of the Orange Tree also made me cry quite a lot. The thing that made me really cry about this book, though, is I broke the spine on many occasions, because it's just such a big book that you just have to. If you have tried reading this and you haven't got past the 300-page mark, I fully understand why. I was so close to just DNFing it in those first 300 pages because they were so hard to read. They were just really convoluted political world building stuff. But once you get past that and all the politics is set up, it's such a juicy story, especially the fact that it's a believably sapphic romance as well, set in fantasy, which, let's face it, usually fantasies are very heteronormative, very whitewashed. This is hugely diverse, beautifully written, and I just highly recommend you read it. I would try and explain the storyline to you, but it is so convoluted that it's hard to. But there is like the East and the West and they're fighting, but there's an evil dragon who's likely to come back and they have to find a way to solve him, to get rid of him, to like bind him or something. And it's just the way of getting him, just having to like overcome everything. Also, if I could have a massive print of this cover with the foil and everything, I would, because I think it is beautiful. By the way, we are now in September. The last 4 books were in September because I read 7 books in September. And then the next book I read after that in September was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is also a favourite book now. Taylor Jenkins Reid just has me by a chokehold with her writing. It's incredible. I want to get all of her other books. One True Loves. And there's another one. I want to get them because she is just so good at writing and I care for all her characters. And there's a twist in the end of this book that I did not see coming. Which, please read it so you can know the twist, because it really just, I was like sorry, what? But it's about Evelyn Hugo and her 7 husbands, and she's wanting to put herself back in the narrative because she's famous and all she has ever been in the media is Evelyn Hugo marries this person, divorces this person, and she wants to put herself back at the centre of her story rather than just being somebody's wife. Please read it. It's so good. And it's such a quick read, and you get these little like snippets, like it switches between like the interview and the past, and like it's not one of those ones where it feels clunky that it like switches back and forth, like you barely notice that it's flipping back and forth between like decades. It's just so good and I care so much for the character. Taylor Jenkins Reid, just read her writing because it's so good. Or I think it is. Talking of really good writers, Beautiful World, Where Are You? Oh, I forgot to give what the star rating was the last one, so I got so excited about talking about the books. Song of Achilles I gave 5 stars. Power of the Orange Tree I gave 5 stars. Evelyn Hugo I gave 5 stars. I've read some incredible books recently. This one I gave 4 stars. But the only reason it didn't get 5 stars from me was because of how political it was at points. But it's just, if you're in your 20s or your 30s, please just read this book because it's just a nice reminder of how messy life is. You follow 4 characters. They're essentially 2 sets of partners, and just how friendships and love and life can just get messy, but you can still find the beauty in life throughout it. One of them's a writer and she's like, but what if I'm not good enough? And I related to that quite a lot. Also, it's just a beautiful cover as well. And the final book I read, which put me into the biggest reading slump I have been in, and I'm still in. I'm desperately trying to read If We Were Villains, but this book has just been on my mind because I care about the characters so much, and that is Felix Ever After. I gave this 4 stars. I really don't know why I didn't give it 5 stars, looking back on it, because it was incredible. I might have to go in and change that to 5 stars. It's about a trans man, boy. He's 17, so the crossover between childhood and like adulthood, who's just trying to figure out life. He's dealing with transphobia and there's something that goes down and he's trying to solve it, and in the end he's like, but what if I don't need to? And I highly recommend a lot of people read this, because it does just bring to light how trans people go through the world. I tried to make a big effort to read queer writers, trans writers, because there is a huge issue with like the trans thing in publishing at the moment, but I'm not going to go into that because I will get on a soapbox and just rant for a while. But if you, years ago, like 2016, there was a book called The Art of Being Normal that was wildly popular. This just feels like the next like teen book of that kind of thing. Like, they feel very similar. Both are going to hold a very dear place in my heart because when I was their age around school, I had a lot of trans people in my like friend group, or like people were questioning their gender and didn't know what was going on. And this book I would recommend to a lot of people because it's just a nice reminder of it's okay just to be questioning, and it's okay to just be you. Like, I took away some of the messages, like, I'm very cis, clearly. I am a woman, I've born and like bred, but the thing of how you express yourself and just being you, the message of that is so strong throughout this that it's just worth reading. And because it's aimed at like a slightly younger audience, it's a very quick read. Oh dear. But yeah, that was the final book of the last 2 months. That was 11 books I've read. That, like, September was the best month of reading I've ever had. It was 7 books. 7 to... Oh, I read 7 full books, and I've got an audiobook and another book on the go, which I started in September. But yeah, I hope this has been helpful. If there was any books that you weren't sure, like you weren't sure on, okay, I'm not gonna sneeze. But yeah, I am now going to put these all back on my shelf and then go and sit and read, because that just sounds nice and cozy for this rather dull now October day. And I will see you in the next one. Have a lovely day. Goodbye.